Hello, I am Brian, and today I'll be interviewing a college athlete and discussing their opinions and thoughts about whether or not college athletes should receive pay. I'll first begin by introducing some background information about college athlete pay. The discussion pertaining to this has developed conflicting views, as we've seen over time from different communities. The idea of paying college athletes has existed for a while now and continues to remain a debated point. In a recent poll noted by Rick Masses, he mentions that this year he discovered that 49% of Americans felt that college athletes in revenue producing sports should be financially compensated. And in comparison, there was 46 opposed to those receiving pay. So it's pretty heavily divided. And this is definitely a notable topic that is difficult to settle. For the certain National Collegiate Athletic Association, occurs several forms of revenue, like platforms such as CBS Sport and Turner Sports, and that's roughly over 1 billion a year just for broadcasting. So I would believe that instead the issue rather lies in getting past the established guidelines that we've seen throughout college sports. I will now be conducting an interview with Stephen Rand, a college athlete I know who attends the University of Colorado Boulder.
Hello, my name is Steven, and I am a former college football player for the University of Colorado Boulder. I'll be doing an interview today discussing my thoughts over a phone call.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your time. I want to introduce the topic of college athlete pay, and the first question I want to ask you is, say, in a situation where college athletes are being paid, do you believe they should meet any sort of qualifications similar to a standard job?
Yes, I imagine like a regular job, we would see qualifications as if you were applying to a certain position. These qualifications would just have to cater to those of a college athlete rather than your other traditional career. Um, Personally, I would expect to see possibly maintaining a certain GPA, being a college graduate, or having enrollment in certain special courses. I think that these could be some qualifications if there were any to receive pay.
Okay, and I just want to ask you, do you believe personally that college athletes should be paid? And additionally, what would be the pros and cons of them being paid?
Okay, college athletes certainly put in the work deserving of pay, I think. While competing in sports at the top level against other students, there are several risks that comes to mind. I want to mention, in particular, injuries to the body. I think these are a significant toll and serves as a big factor to why college athletes should receive compensation pay. Alongside school, college athletes perform many similar tasks to professional athletes, and it only makes sense for them to be paid for their work. I think this would be a significant benefit in that situation.
For the next question, I want to see what you think about college athletes receiving scholarships as they do now instead of salaries as their compensation.
I do not think that receiving scholarships is a bad form of reimbursement for college athletes at all. This method ensures that the money is going towards education, which is certainly not a bad option. However, I think it's important to consider that scholarships does not provide as many expensive options as things you could do with receiving a salary. In many situations, tuition is not the only financial burden for people. not receiving the necessary payment can be troublesome for a good portion of college athletes out there who require that money for other purposes outside of education, which is something a salary would allow them to do.
Okay, now, do you think it is necessary that college athletes should maintain a certain grade percentage in order to receive their salary?
Well, of course, if there were guidelines passed to allow college athletes to be paid, managing a certain grade percentage should definitely be a requirement, I think. Like any other careers, specific quotas should be met, and there are evaluations, which is a regular part of the job. So, consequently, if a college athlete is being paid, I think it makes sense for them to be responsible to uphold certain grade standards.
Right. Do you believe implementing pay for college athletes could lead to potentially being financially irresponsible for those people?
Yes, I think people can easily become financially irresponsible. It is in the case for college athletes, I would imagine that this would be especially relevant for the many young individuals who likely have not had a job yet. As a result, suddenly receiving pay as a college student could lead to irrational decisions and purchases. Although I do think it is an important step forward and for the people to manage to learn how to control their money.
And to wrap things up, I want to ask you, what type of future do you expect for college athletes and their pay?
In the future, I believe there is a strong chance changes will be made in the National College Athletic Association to allow pay for college athletes. I would hope that this opens up many new opportunities for athletes to develop and thrive. In the end, however, there should be measures definitely established by the NCAA and other organizations to confidently ensure that their athletes are not being taken advantage of financially. I expect just a lot of good stuff moving forward. I would hope.
Well, Stephen, it was great hearing your opinions about college athlete pay. I myself am quite interested in the topic, which is why I chose to ask you questions about it. But I'm not quite sure how things will be in the future. I think we'll just have to wait and see how things change and develop as new implementations are put into place. Right. From this interview, I got that Stephen has big hopes for college athlete pay, but certainly believes that there should be a lot of guidelines set forth before there is any significant movement in order to try and establish this. Completely agree with him on that aspect and think that he brought up many great points on this topic.